Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Talk Musicals to Me, a new theatre podcast about musicals and their impact on people. My name is Caroline Sheen and I'm here to quiz some of the leading creatives in the entertainment industry about their relationship with musical theatre and how certain musicals may have influenced their lives in ways you may not even expect. From how they first encountered a musical to musicals they may never even have seen, let's dive in and introduce today's guest to open up and talk musicals to me. Talking musicals today is Pippa Cleary, the wonderful, acclaimed musical theatre composer who's written such fabulous shows as The Great British Bake Off the Musical and The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, aged 13 and 3/4. Both fantastic shows, and she has so much more under her belt as well. When I was on tour in 2009, 2010, I had a phone call from my husband saying he'd been to see a fabulous new musical written by two young upcoming musical theatre composer lyricist team called Pippa Cleary and Jake Brunga. And he said, you have to listen to this song because it's sung by a Welsh character and it's one of the funniest songs he'd ever heard. And so I quickly listened to it and contacted Jake and Pippa and asked them to please give me a copy of this song. And I have sung it in many a cabaret. It always brings the house down. It's probably got the most hits out of anything I'm on YouTube. And it's just the most fun song to sing. It's called A Simple Valley Song. Very funny, very rude and very Welsh. Ever since then, I've championed Jake and Pippa and they have gone from strength to strength. And let's face it, it's just fabulous to have a female composer on the podcast. Pippa Cleary, talk musicals to me, please.
What a wonderful welcome. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you very much for coming on and flying the flag for female composers.
Thank you very much.
It's quite a difficult place to find a woman. It's getting better, but you know, it's really hard to find female creatives because it's such a male-dominated industry.
Yeah.
And so to make a mark like you have in it is to be hugely applauded.
That's very kind, but I do agree with you. I think it's getting so much better. You know, if I think about where we were all like, again, when we wrote that show, Jet Set Go 2008, I really did feel like there wasn't anyone I could call and go, oh, how's it for you being a female composer? Whereas now there's so many amazing talented people coming up and I think it's really good. It just takes time, doesn't it, for these things to shift?
Absolutely. I'm hoping to get Georgia Stitt on here.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
And she's leading a massive movement out in New York called Maestro Music.
Yes, I went to one of their events.
Oh, did you? How was that?
It was fantastic. And I was thinking there needs to be something like that over here. I think there are just more things in place over in New York in terms of supporting creatives, especially female creatives. And again, things are changing here, but there still aren't as many places to go or people you can kind of like be mentored by to sort of help you. You just feel a little bit like, oh, I'm just kind of doing my thing. So yes, just get her to come over and sort it out here. That'd be great. And then you and I can, keep it going.
We need to set up our own branch, don't we?
Yeah. Maestro UK.
So maybe that's something we should talk to Georgia about, setting up our own branch of Maestro Music. I'm saying our own like I write anything. I've had some ideas, but I've never put pen to paper.
No, absolutely. Let's lead the charge. It can be a cross-pollinating. You know how once Jake Brunga, he went on a fantastic New York exchange program for writers. And I remember being incredibly jealous. This was a good decade ago. And Luke Shepherd went out, all these kind of amazing playwrights. They sort of did swaps for a week with people at a similar stage in their career. And they went out to New York and then they kind of hosted for a week in London. And I was so jealous because there wasn't like a composer bit. Oh. And I remember thinking, we need to have more of these. So yeah, we can speak to Georgia about making all these things happen.
And then we get a jolly in New York out of it.
Exactly.
Pippa, shall we dive in and start with our musical chat?
Let's dive.
When did you first meet musical theatre?
Well, I guess in the Disney films I watched as a sort of 4 or 5-year-old, because obviously they are all stage musicals on screen, really, in their best way. But I guess my first sort of the time I had that moment, and it's the same musical as Cameron Mackintosh, which I find hilarious, which is that I saw Salad Days when I was about 7.
Oh, wow. Wow.
which is this lovely British musical. Gosh, I can't even remember the writer's name. That's embarrassing.
Julian Slade, his name is.
There it is.
Yeah.
Summer and sunshine and falling in love. It's the most joyful thing. And I saw it with my parents and I was sort of bopping along for the whole of the next week going, this is so great. It just, the tunes are so good. And it was just, fun and cheerful and everything sunshiny. And I remember that quite vividly as need to see more of these kind of thing.
That's incredible because I've heard Cameron talk about that so many times about how it really changed his life.
I watched the documentary and I was like, hang on, that's the show that I saw.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Good taste, obviously.
Where did you watch it?
Again, I would have been like 6. It definitely wasn't in London. We were visiting friends somewhere and it was, I'm so sorry, the cat, Seymour.
I can see him.
I have cats called Audrey and Seymour.
That's superb.
And he's now clambering on. Right, say hello and now you can go.
Oh, Seymour. Are they both black cats?
No, she's sort of tabby. They were found in a box on a bus about a year ago, so we adopted them. Anyway, I digress.
Audrey and Seymour. No, that's gorgeous. So was it an amateur production or professional? Or
it was professional. Yeah, I remember it was quite small. I think it was sort of cast of 8, very small kind of pub theatre vibe.
Yeah.
And I guess it could, no, I think it definitely was professional. And we were taking my grandparents at the time, who were quite elderly at that point, and it was a really special kind of family day. And I think it was a musical that my grandma had always loved. So yeah, we all went. I think it was down by the sea somewhere. Again, I would have been about 6, so I just don't know. But it was a very lovely, cozy pub theatre kind of vibe. And then afterwards, I think a lot of the actors talked to people, and I might have met one and been all child fangirly and gone, oh, I love your voice.
Oh, that's
fabulous. I like that song. Your dress is really pretty. Can I wear it? That kind of thing. So yeah, I do remember it was a fantastic show. It is a fantastic show.
My parents, both primary school teachers, and every year my dad's school that he was at would do a big Christmas show, and it was sort of a pantomime, but it had different stories than your usual pantomimes these days. And after it, they would ask me which part would I want to play in it if I went to that school. And it was always the ones in the pretty dresses. Those were the ones I wanted to play.
Of course.
Yeah. And sometimes I actually ended up getting those dresses because my dad taught at the school, so he'd bring them back for me.
Oh, that's incredible. You had the power. You wielded the power.
I did. And I mean, do you know what? They were awful dresses, really, but they were just the ones that were on stage. And if they were on stage, to me, that meant they were fabulous.
Yeah.
I had the Ugly Sisters dresses. That was how fabulous I thought they were. It was brilliant. Oh my gosh. So Salad Days is responsible for your career and Cameron Mackintosh's career.
Yeah.
Have you had that chat with him?
We've actually never met.
Ah, right.
So no. But I mean, when we do, I will have that chat. And again, I think you say you can hear it in my music, but like that kind of slightly British, catchy, joyful thing is just really what inspires and feeds me. And sometimes I guess I try and replicate that kind of feeling. And I guess that's what I really got in spades from it. And it's funny and it's silly and it doesn't take itself too seriously. And it was just, the tone was very me. And I just, listen to that album on repeat.
I love that. I absolutely love it. So you've got an in there with Cameron when you meet him.
When I meet, I've got my anecdote ready to go.
You know what, Cam? Me and you started in the same place, just at different times.
Yeah. And wouldn't you know, me and Caroline Sheen are heading Maestro UK along with Georgia Stitt, and we're doing a launch event. Can we have one of your theatres, please? Thank you so much. That'd be great. Lovely.
Thank you kindly. And we'll sing something from Salad Days.
We'll sing something from Salad Days.
Inspired by.
Exactly.
So, young Pippa was 6 or 7 watching Salad Days. How then did you then first get involved in a musical yourself?
So if you don't count the numerous, I'm going to call them productions, that I forced my cousins and brother to do every summer. We used to go down to Devon, me, my brother and some cousins, about 5 or 6 of us within a couple of years of each other. And I would write these little shows, and it was normally centered around some sort of princess, witch or dragon or whatever, adventure, pirates, whatever. I do this exactly the same thing now, just with actors. And, sing this, sing that, stand there, stand there. I remember once my brother, who's a bit younger, I decided he wasn't really good enough. So I just made him lighting, and he would sit in like a box at the side of the room with a torch doing lighting. There was only 5 of us, so we really needed like another company member, but clearly I was like, you're not up to snuff, mate. So we would do these productions, and there is video footage of them. I did a big clear out like a decade ago at my parents and found these old VHS tapes that we painfully converted. And there's a great shot where like we're all up on stage doing this whole whatever it is, and then it pans around to the entire extended family, including like my granddad and most of my dad's brothers who hate musicals, kind of drinking and smoking heavily to try and get through the day. Anyway, I feel like I've always done done it, but my school were very, very lovely. And they let me do my own first musical. So I wrote a show at school called Someone to Love Me, the wartime epic.
Oh my gosh.
And again, I have an archive of this, and I could even send you a track if you really wanted to hear it, because we did record it.
Yes, please.
And I did actually recycle a couple of those songs in later musicals, because I love to recycle, don't like to waste a tune.
Well, who would?
We collaborated with the boys' school, and we did this like wartime epic kind of Dad's Army meets Salad Days, probably meets kind of something like, and it was very fun. And I guess I would have been about 16.
And you composed that, wrote it, lyrics?
Yeah, there was a friend of mine who was directing. She did some of the book. My mum did a fair amount of lyrics and book, but I guess it was just me, yeah. And funnily enough, that was my calling card, a few years later when I went to Bristol and met Luke Shepherd, because we met in halls of residence. And I was like, oh, I've written a musical, don't you know? It's a very big production at my school. It's called Someone to Love Me. Here's the cast recording, because we recorded these tracks. We did. I'd love to write another one, and so I actually had proof of concept. I mean, I wouldn't say it was the best thing I've ever written. And I got a cast together and friends played in this little band, and that was joyful. That was amazing. And it was incredible that they let me do it, to be honest. And they opened the school late and they let parents come, and, we actually performed it for I think 2 nights.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with you for actually having the gumption and the drive to put so much confidence in what you do. And that's amazing. But also to have the school put that confidence in you as well.
Yeah.
Sell some tickets, make a bit of money for the PTA,
yeah.
or whoever.
I do have my mum very much thank, because they were a bit, this is a bit of an ask, but she was a very determined lady. And because I'm visually impaired, she really wanted to make sure that my confidence level was as high as it could be with the things that I could do.
Yeah.
And the music was obviously something that I was gravitating towards. So she was incredible at going, oh, go on. I think she was there every rehearsal with cake to kind of like bribe all the kids to stay and things like that. So I'm very, very lucky. I had a good support system.
It's essential, I think. And so then you've been writing with Rob Madge lately for both their solo shows they've done. And a lot of that has been about their childhood and their supportive family. And you must have empathized with that a lot, having had that experience yourself with a family to support you.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. The amount of kind of childhood videos that I have that are just the same as Rob's. But that's why Rob's story is so relatable, because so many of us were those kids in those dresses, in those costumes, forcing the rest of their family to watch.
I had Rob on the other day and I did say it took me about 3 hours to recover from My Sons Are Queer, but what can you do? Because I was so, like you say, I absolutely related to it and was inspired by it and in awe of it. Just phenomenal.
Yeah, I was so lucky to be part of that.
So tell me something about your visual impairment and how does that affect your theatre going and watching a musical?
So the short version is I've had it since birth. Distances, it's a kind of rare condition. My mum had something when she was pregnant that caused scars at the back of my retina called toxoplasmosis. And up super close, it's not too bad. I can still, read an iPhone because it's always in front of my face. But for shows, it is frustrating because I normally have to be in the front row. And even then, I'm normally using like a little monocular just because of distance. And which is why I do love an intimate show. The difference is less when there's a small room. I love a workshop because I can sit right at the front and I'm right in front of the actors. What's funny, of course, is because normally, as you would know, what tends to happen in previews if you're working on a show is all the creatives sit right at the back in the dark, nice and subtle, make their notes very, I have to be front row centered and normally using a monocular. So I have to have this lovely little speech with every company of actors I work where I go, I'm really sorry, but in, that first dress run, that first preview, when you're going to be like really nervous, I'm going to be there and you're probably going to see me make a note and there's nothing we can do about it. I'm really sorry. There was one time though, I think I mouthed someone a line. So I was helpful at one point.
It's useful to have you there.
It's frustrating. And it does get exhausting sometimes because it's just, I've got my arm up for the whole time holding monocular and taking it down.
Yeah.
And so it depends. Yeah. So but it is what it is,
It's really tough. I am very short-sighted, but obviously it's not an impairment for me because it's correctable. But when I'm in bed at night on my phone, I take my lenses out and I have my phone there. I guess that must be what it's like permanently. But I love that even though you have this difficulty in seeing something, it hasn't stopped you being inspired and creative and making something that other people can see and enjoy and without that difficulty. That's fabulous.
Thank you. I think it has made me super duper collaborative because I've needed to rely on MDs more, orchestrators, people who can read music when I can't. And I really love that. I love working as a team. And that's probably come a little bit from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So when you learn the piano, was that by ear then?
So semi. I can read music a bit. I kind of struggled through it with blowing up all the music to kind of A5 size and sort of sticking it right up. So I can kind of scan one line at a time, so I can sing a song. But as soon as you're reading a chord or like lots of notes on the piano, I have to kind of read up the chord like C, D, so I can't see the shapes. I can't sort of scan.
Yeah.
So no, I did learn. It was painful. And what was funny is that I'd be learning these pieces painfully and slowly. And then I'd get so frustrated and bored and I'd start making up the piece. So I'd come into these piano lessons when I was like 10 and I'd have learned the first minute, note for note. And then I would memorize it very quickly. So I didn't have to look at it. So that's why I have quite a good memory. And then I would just get bored and start making it up. And my piano teacher would go, "That's not what Mozart wrote. I don't know what you're saying." And I'd go, "Yeah, no, but it could go here." So yeah, I now completely play by ear. I can sort of follow a score. And the joy that any musical director has working with me is realizing I can kind of transcribe using Sibelius. There's an amazing feature called Flexi Time where you can sort of play a few things bar by bar. So there are ways. I can read music a bit, but I kind of don't. And I'm pretty much a by ear type of gal, which is fun.
I used to go to piano lessons. It was a struggle. I didn't like practicing. I didn't like doing it. And you kept going, even though it was so difficult for you to be able to see the music, is brilliant, because that was clearly what you wanted to do.
You're right. I did keep going, but I stopped the bit I hated, which was the practice, as you say, the bit that was trying to learn other. And I regret that, because I now don't really play anyone else's music because I can't really read it. But I saw Alan Menken's concert the other week at the Palladium, and I felt brilliant. I mean, I love him so much. He is my utter inspiration. And he was also saying that he just got bored and didn't have the motivation or the discipline to practice, and just kind of, he doesn't think he's a very good pianist. I don't think I'm a very good pianist. I'm very much, I'm not just never had the patience. And I went, "Oh, well, it's okay then. Everyone finds their way, and that's what's nice. You work out a system that works for you, I guess."
Absolutely. Apart from your own musicals, which musical would you say you have seen the most?
Ooh. I mean, probably a toss-up between Wicked and Billy Elliot, I would say.
That's the first time we've had Billy Elliot mentioned on this podcast.
That would be my answer to what's the best written musical you think there is. It's so, even though I wouldn't put it at the top of necessarily the best scores, because not always a cast recording I would kind of put on, but as a musical, I just don't think it gets better than that show, how it's been written, the heart, the joy, the sadness, all the sort of stuff that you get. When I used to teach at Stagecoach, we did a version of that, so I obviously saw it a lot of times for that. Then I knew a lot of people that were working on it, so I sort of ended up seeing it just so often, and every time I wanted to take people, I said, if you're going to see one thing, especially for people who aren't sure if they like musicals, they always love Billy Elliot and are surprised. So yeah,
it's such a fabulous story, isn't it? The background of it, the struggle, the miners' strike, and the art and the creativity that can be found in poverty, pretty much, isn't it? I never saw it without being a blubbering mess.
Exactly. And that's what they do so well. I think it's because you're always trying to find the balance between, let's call it the heavy stuff, which is the mining crisis, and then the kind of the lighter stuff, and then the characters that you really root for. And you can't always root for 10 different people and 10 different storylines and themes. And you're trying to streamline and go, what am I investing in? And it's just so cleverly done, because you really care about this child and he wants to dance, and it feels so simple. And then there's all this complexity around it, but you never feel like it is too heavy, or it's just so powerful. Anyway, so yes, big fan of that one.
It has that great matter-of-fact sense of humor as well in it, doesn't it? That's
yes,
I guess the British sense of humor, that even in the worst of times somebody will make a joke.
Exactly. And it's nice and rude, and it's unapologetic.
Yeah, it's superb.
Because I was doing it at Stagecoach, so that all the kids we were doing it with were sort of 7 or 8, and there's all the swearing and all that stuff. I remember whether we were censoring or not. I think we didn't in the end. There is a schools version which is very clean, which we moved away from pretty quickly.
You want the filth, really, because that's half the fun, seeing kids doing it.
Exactly.
So you may have actually answered, but let's see if this is a different answer. Speaking of laughing and crying, which musical has made you laugh the most, and which musical has made you cry the most?
Laugh the most. I do love Operation Mincemeat. I also love Book of Mormon. Is it okay if there are these long pauses?
Absolutely. We edit the hell out of this, so don't worry.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, have a think.
Laugh the most. I would put Little Shop up there.
I have to say, the Bake Off made me laugh out loud.
Well, thanks, Caroline.
I was aching from laughing watching the Bake Off musical.
We had so much fun with that. One of the biggest sadnesses is that we couldn't go filthier, because there's some absolute filth on that programme, but obviously we wanted to make sure sure it was a family accessible show. But there were some excellent scenes and filthy lyrics. There's one about a finger and linger that I do regret had to change. Yeah. Yeah, that was so much fun. So yeah, I'll put Little Shop up there as well, up with Mormon and Operation Mincemeat. All very different funny shows for different reasons.
I have to admit, I have not seen Operation Mincemeat yet.
Caroline, where have you been?
This has to be remedied.
Yes, it does. It does.
It's so difficult to get tickets. I need to sort that out.
Yeah, no, it's excellent.
Because I think it's a great premise for a musical.
Something Rotten.
Oh, fabulous.
Which is obviously coming. And I saw the Drury Lane concert they did. And I also saw it on Broadway like 8 years ago. And it is so funny. I mean, it is just so perfect. I can't wait for it to come here properly and see what people think of it, because it's such a great musical. Have you seen it?
I haven't. Look at all these things I haven't seen. I feel like I should resign as the host of this podcast, because all these shows going out.
We'll go together.
Yeah.
We'll get everyone together. Do see some shows. It's fantastically funny.
So apropos of that, what is the musical that makes you cry the most? For the right reasons, obviously.
Yeah, no.
That question's coming up later.
Well, Les Mis is up there. Next to Normal, I cried a lot because it's very, very raw. I do love that score.
There's something about those shows, isn't there? Next to Normal and Fun Home, these kind of small scale American musicals that have a small cast, they just get you in the heart.
Yeah, and you're so invested, and they really know where to tug at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
I've remembered another one, Dogfight by Pasek and Paul, which had a run at the Southwark Playhouse a good 5 years ago. And it's such a gorgeous story, but it's heartbreaking. And I love their music. And actually, it's one of their scores that leans more into the musical theatre rather than the kind of very, very poppy, which I guess they're more known for now.
Yeah.
And there's a song called Before It's Over, and also, is it Beautiful Face or something like that, with the lead character, who they play a joke on her that they're trying to invite the ugliest girl to the party, and it's really cruel. It's just beautiful. So that whole score, because again, it's a tiny, tiny intimate story, as you say, about this couple, basically. It's a good modulation that brings the tear ducts. It's a good yeah.
I love the way you think of the sort of technical side of it that can pull at the heartstrings. That's fabulous. So, having not seen Operation Mincemeat, and I regret it, which musical is there out there that you haven't seen yet that you feel like you really should have seen or wanted to have seen?
Witches of Eastwick. Haven't seen it.
Did you not see Witches
Well,
of
there
Eastwick?
haven't been that many opportunities, and I think there was a recent thing and I was away for that, but I love the score. Jake is obsessed with it and constantly references it when we write it. He's like, oh, that song, then I keep having to go, I haven't seen it yet. He's like, what?
I have fan art in my loft by Jake, I think. I think he drew us pictures and things like that. He loved it so much.
Probably. He loves it. And clearly I'm going to love it. It's obviously exactly my cup of tea. I just haven't seen it. So I really, really, when it comes back again, in whatever guise, I will go. I will be there on the front row with my telescope.
Well, we need to get
it on.
That's the second conversation we'll have with Cameron is, come on, put it back on. Let's get that sorted.
There we go.
I'm old enough to play Rosie Ash's part now. I can play my own mother. That'd be interesting. Not sure if I can hit the high notes, but we can practice.
I think you certainly can. You certainly can.
Yeah.
Got a lot of high notes in the Valley song. The Valley song, because I wrote it when I was so young, and I have a high voice, and so I would always write everything very, very high, and it's all And now people give me so much aggro for why does it always have to be so high? And I'm like, well, you just write for your own voice, really, and then you fix it later. When someone can't sing it, then you move it. But until that point, it stays where it is.
It is high, but also the range of it, because it goes quite low as well.
I know.
So you have to be able to cross this all the octaves.
It's a constant battle because I have a big range. I remember once Lara Denning had to sing for me, "They burn, they burn, they burn," or something, because she was playing some evil queen in something I was doing, and she was like, "Darling, why are you doing this to me?" I was like, "Because I know you love it secretly." But yeah, so I have become somewhat known for unnecessarily big range songs, so I've decided to embrace it as my USP, and that one day that there'll be a Mount View course, extend your range, the Cleary repertoire, how to make your range.
Let's do that version.
Yeah, that's it.
So how about when you write for men, where do you gauge that? Or do you make them do all those vast options?
That's actually, funnily enough, things end up staying in the same place. place, because of course, if I'm singing too high for a girl, it's probably about in the right place for most men. It's normally the female songs that have to go down for the altos.
Yeah.
So actually it's easier. Of course, I know how to move things, but when I'm actually writing, I am singing in a place where I can sing.
Yeah.
Because I can't really write any other way, really. But I had to be quite mindful it when we did Adrian Mole. That was a real challenge. And I think when we started writing it, we didn't even know if we were having real children or not. So it wasn't really something I had to think about. I think I always assumed it would be a tenor playing those kids. And then we realized we were going to have, which was amazing. And it was the best decision ever. But it suddenly meant that all these songs, the range had to be made shorter. And even with doing that, you've got 4 different Adrians at different stages of sort of voice breaking who all have to be able to sing it. So that was really interesting. When we talk about modulations, I worked out that they all had to sort of sing it in a similar place, which was B major. And I was like, how do I get back to B, but make it feel like we're not coming back to B, because we've been at B quite a lot, but let's go somewhere else for the other actors, and then we'll come back to B, but we'll do a clever modulate. It was so funny. And the whole music team and I, we had so many laughs moving these like verses and choruses around to make sure that it was a really good place for the kids to sing. But yes, there was an issue there because I'd written these huge range songs for them.
Forgive me for not remembering, because I have seen it like 3 times.
That's okay.
But the boys, their voices had broken or hadn't broken?
Hadn't broken, which was impossible because, of course, they also had to be old enough to look 13. So it's not like we could cast 11-year-olds because the content would have been completely inappropriate. It really was about that turning adolescence, those years. So we kind of only got them for about 6 months before their voices would break.
That is walking a tightrope, isn't it?
It was jumping in the deep end as my first big show, and I learned a lot from it. And I then was like, oh, this is why most musicals with kids don't have 13-year-olds. They're either 12 and under or 15 and up.
That makes sense, because having done Chitty and Mary Poppins, the boys are always super young.
Right.
And either the girl is the older one or they're the same age.
But actually, the only one that's similar is Billy Elliot, actually. And I know that they have different keys available depending on which Billy is on, because it's slightly younger, but it's that 12, 13 vibe where, yeah, it's just something you have to, it's an extra thing you have. It's fun to deal with. And again, like I say, I learned a lot, but it was made trickier for the fact that I had written unnecessarily large range songs anyway. And I think the Pandoras, who obviously were girls, that stayed pretty high. And I was like, oh, they can do it. And they did do it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And they extended their range.
There was a boy in Chitty with me whose voice broke on stage.
Oh.
And bless him, it was in Act 2 and they were being told they weren't allowed to go down the trap door to look for the children that were hiding, that the toy maker was hiding. And Jeremy had to say, oh, poo, that's not fair. And bless him, he went, oh, poo, that's not fair.
No.
We all sort of went, oh, and that was it. That was his last show.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Really is.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a similar thing on Adrian. I think someone's voice broke a little earlier than everyone was expecting. And yeah, anyway.
Like that, in a heartbeat. Speaking of breaking, check out this segue. Shall we have a little break?
Very good.
I'm so proud of that.
G'day listeners, another show you can find on the Bloop Network is Thrash and Treasure, where legendary artists from Broadway, West End, Hollywood and beyond deep dive into 2 seemingly opposite genres of music, heavy metal and musical theatre. From Tony winners to reality TV contestants, hear a vast range of iconic guests learn about genres of music they've never been exposed to. With over 130 episodes, there's bound to be a silly, sassy and insightful conversation that'll have you reaching for the leather pants and hairspray. And here is a sneak peek. We're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, that's not Mr. J-Wags, and we're catching up with local surf sensation Steve Bastoni. Now, you do a lot of things incredibly well, but what's one normal, everyday thing which you suck at?
What do I suck at? Oh, I have to think really hard about this one, Aaron.
So do a lot of our guests, apparently. I'm like, yeah, right.
Procrastination is one of my weaknesses. I'm a professional procrastinator.
Yeah.
I hate doing taxes. I hate doing bookwork. I hate doing menial stuff. I can get lost in housework and cooking. You know, I don't like folding laundry. I'll do the laundry, but I'm not going to fucking fold it. I hate folding it.
Yep. I don't like the ironing.
I can do towels.
Yep.
Yeah, I can do towels.
Yep.
But I don't like folding anything else other than towels.
You haven't seen my Jenga pile of clothes here. Most of
Yeah.
it like half clean. So
Yeah, so that's staying calm in traffic. I'm not good at.
yep,
I've got lots of. I mean, we could be here all day, Aaron.
yep.
I've got lots, lots of character defects.
Awesome. That's what I love to hear. We love to humanize our guests.
Yeah.
Now, you've played a few factual criminals. So, when taking on real life persons who may have perhaps gotten themselves a bit of a reputation in the real world, what approach do you have in terms of portraying someone who is not only evil, but needs to be layered and needs to be able to be understood by us? I don't want to use the term empathy because apparently we're not allowed to use that with villains anymore. But does that get difficult not judging them on occasions?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's easy to sort of paint pictures of black and white and good guys and bad guys and all that stuff. But the challenge as an actor is always to try and find the humanity in the character. There's very few people that are actually, really evil. Most people are just done dumb shit. They've done bad shit. And generally, they're remorseful for it if they're not psychopaths. I've spoken to a forensic psychologist about this who told me, I said, do you believe that people are actually, there's such thing as just real unredeemable evil people? And he said, yeah, there is. He said, I've only come across two in my life, but he said they are people who you just think they're beyond rehabilitation. They have no empathy, no feeling, no humanity at all. They're just born evil. And so that was interesting because that was Tim Watson Monroe, who's a famous psychologist who's written a lot of books, Shrink in the Clink, which was fantastic, and another one where he's interviewed all the psychopaths and killers and criminals, including, Chopper Reed and Alphonse and all the big ones, and a lot of ones we've never heard of too. But yeah, he said that the evil does exist. There's people who are just born evil, which was interesting to me because I didn't think that. But I'll take his word for it. He's very, very experienced forensic psychologist. So, I try and find the humanity in the characters. There's very few. Sometimes it's fun to play the evil side of the characters. The great thing about being an actor is you can do all kinds of crazy actions without any consequences in the real world,
Once upon a time.
Well, yeah, and it's weird because sometimes, people can't distinguish between, your character and the person.
Yeah, especially soap actors.
Yeah, that's right.
When you share a name with your soap character like you did on Neighbours.
Yeah, the line can get blurred. I had a woman, I remember when my character on Police Rescue was going through gambling.
Hello and welcome back to the second part of Talk Musicals to Me with Pippa Cleary. Thank you, Pippa. This has been so exciting so far. I'm looking forward to the next half and your next answers. We're having different answers, which I'm really enjoying.
Having a blast. And you're really making me think, which is very good.
That's good. It's nice to get the old brain cells firing, isn't it?
Definitely.
Okay, so let's start with... which musical would you put on the school curriculum?
Probably Matilda.
Oh, yes.
It's very musically so hard, which is why I love it. So obviously from a musical point of view, you're really teaching children so much about music. There's so many time signature changes and key changes and diction. You've really got to be able to get your tongue around those really quick songs. And I think kids also who have sung Matilda, I've done a few, workshops and panels and things, and they're full of questions. It just seems to bring out, I guess that's what Matilda is, she's full of questions and she loves learning. So I guess that message is just so on point for the curriculum, as well as having those just joyful songs like When I Grow Up. And I love the new song at the end of the movie as well, Hold My Hand.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Definitely, that's a crier. Oh, beautiful.
I was an absolute
When
mess.
you're holding my... Oh, so good. So I think it's got everything in it. And then it's got all the comedy. And so it's just, but family and learning and friendship and what family means and all of those things in one perfect Tim Minchin, fantastic, part of genius. Yeah. But I do think from a musical point of view, it really challenges children and makes them interested in music because of the different styles and the complexities of it and the layers and, so I like that about it.
I love that about Matilda because even going to see it, we listen to the soundtrack a lot and it's not easy. And yet they don't compromise on the difficulty of the song because it is children singing it. They meet the kids on that level and expect them to achieve it, and they encourage them to achieve it, which I think is super.
You could not be more on the money with that point, because I did actually meet Tim Minchin once. It was a very fabulous day. And again,
Wow.
I was saying to him that when we did Adrian Mole, I think Luke Shepherd, our director, sort of noticed this shift that before Matilda, there was a lot more. I remember Joe Hawes, the casting director, saying, our kid's going to be able to do it, and they can't be on stage for that long, bless them, they'll have whatever, and then Matilda came along and suddenly it was like, yep, she's on stage the entire show, carrying the entire thing. And so people realized, as you say, you don't have to play down, and they can do these incredible things. And some things in the mouth of a child are just some of those lines you'll never get with adults. So I was grateful for that, because it meant that we also made Adrian Mole very hard. And, and every time I write for children now, it's just something that I'm like, they can do it. They absolutely can.
You don't patronize them, which I think is great.
Exactly.
And you expect them, and then they can rise to that expectation and be really proud of themselves for doing that, to meet that challenge head on is great. Matilda, like you say, rarely leaves the stage. Bizarrely, you wouldn't think it, but in Mary Poppins, they are never off stage. There's one or two moments towards the end of Act 2 where they're off stage. They're rarely off stage, but obviously they're on stage together.
And they're very small, aren't they?
Very small.
Yeah.
Yeah. The boy especially. And there was one point in Chitty, they do leave the stage eventually, but Chitty has a very long Act 1, and these poor kids were never off stage pretty much the whole of Act 1. If they were off stage, they were getting water shoved in their faces by the chaperones going, drink deeper, hydrate.
Sit down, breathe. You've got 2 seconds before you're on again.
Yeah.
You good? Good, lovely, great. Off you go.
Then you get these kids on stage that were desperate for the toilet because they drank all this water.
No, oh no.
Bless their hearts. But they ended up sort of regulating it, by the time, it was usually sort of their first week if they were on, you could see them just like really trying hard not to eat them.
You see, there you go. Another thing to be grateful for is bladder control. These kids learn so much from these shows.
Do a musical and learn all these fabulous life skills. It's great stuff.
You joke, but I mean, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I think one should be on the national curriculum. It teaches you so much. And then the actual practicalities of putting it on, working as a team, whether you're on the lights or on the sound, on the lights with your torch, like your brother.
Yeah, but as you say, and it's the collaboration thing again, whether you're a performer on stage or whether you are part of the creative team or the behind the scenes team, you're learning how you cannot do it on your own. And the communication skills, and get those down as a child, my gosh, it will save you aggro in the long run. If you come, and I was lucky because I did do this show at school, and meeting Jake and Luke at Bristol University and doing these 2 fringe musicals quite early days. So by the time I sort of started doing it professionally, I'd already had the experience of having to sit around that table and collaborate with 10 different people who all have different, agendas or wants and needs, and different departments trying to figure it all out together. I've gone off topic big time, but I guess, yes, the collaboration thing cannot be understated. And I think even now you can be the most talented creative or performer or singer, whatever it is, but if you don't have the skills of knowing when to pick your battles, how to communicate, when to let someone else take the limelight, when to, all of that stuff, it's just the life stuff, and musicals do teach you that.
It really does. So is that what happened then, Pippa, when you were at Bristol? You met Jake, you met Luke, and you started writing stuff for like the Edinburgh Fringe, is it?
That was Jet Set Go. My very first proper musical was Jet Set Go, which the Valley song is from.
Yeah.
And Luke and I were in West Side Story together, and he introduced me to Jake, me having given him this Someone to Love Me cast recording in its nice little shiny CD, and we got the funding to go to the Fringe with I Love You, You're Perfect Now Change.
Okay.
And I was MDing and Luke was directing. So we sort of had a cast. So we had this group of people that we loved, and Luke had the genius idea to alternate it with something new. And then we sat in a pub and decided that Cabin Crew would be fun, and Jet Set, and we had these 8 people, and we wrote it in about 3 months. And then we all went to the Fringe, and then we did another show, the Great British Soap Opera, the next year. I do a lot of Great British things. And both went to German Street afterwards, and so that was my first kind of professional experience.
While you were in college? That's amazing.
Yeah, while I was at uni. I think Luke and Jake were a year ahead of me, so they graduated. So the second year we were doing a lot of Bristol, London megabus trips to kind of get all that together. But we all started at uni. And I remember most of it was written in the music department in these practice rooms. And of course, now, as you know, doing a workshop is incredibly special, rare, expensive, getting actors for a week in a room, you know, all of that. That's what I crave, you know, and I look forward to it, but it's not every week. Whereas at this 3 months in Bristol, Jake and I would write something and then I'd say to the actors, you know, all students, someone want to pop in tonight, try that new song. Oh, great. Do you want to do some choreo? Lovely, lovely. Oh, can you ad lib a bit of, you know, and we just basically did this extended workshop with constant resources, everyone available, everyone really excited, and realizing now like how rare that is, you know, or how difficult it is to get that safe space where the agenda was literally, we're all having fun, we're doing a show. So again, I probably learned a lot of those skills, and I had to collaborate, of course, with Jake. I think Luke said you could do a show all on your own, Pips, but I think here's a writer. He says he wants to do. Why don't you guys do something together? And when we first met, we did not like each other at all.
No way.
We both remember our first writing session, and I'd written a tune, Dance With Me, and he'd written some lyrics, and we were both terribly polite. Oh, okay, that's lovely what you've done. And then we both apparently left and went, I can't work with this person. I can't do it. But because by that point we'd signed the form with the words Jet Set Go and we'd got the venue, it was kind of had to just get on with it, really. Which again, there was no time for anyone to have a moment. So yeah, good times.
I love that. I often say that to kids in drama colleges. If I'm doing like a Q&A or a masterclass or something in a college, I do say, please use the resources in this college and the teachers in this college and the rooms, because when these have gone, you've got to pay extra for that, you know?
Yeah.
You have to hire it, whereas use what you've paid your student fees for, because you're going to miss it when it's gone. And clearly you put that all to very good use.
I do a sort of informal version of it sometimes around my flat, you know, actors who are good friends of mine that don't mind sort of doing the kind of informal workshop before the workshop if I want to hear a song or hear a scene. But you know, you don't want to be asking favors all the time, and you are aware of everyone's time. But for me, hearing stuff as early as possible, and again, it's probably the visual thing. I don't love reading scripts. It doesn't sort of sink in the same way as when I'm hearing it and got people in the room. So I really value that. And any chance I get to get that, you know, I'll be like, oh, can we have some actors? Even if it's just 3 actors around the table, just 3, just, you know, it's nothing. But you know, just yeah, let's have that. And I do sometimes do.
Let's have it.
Let's do it. Let's get them around the kitchen table.
I love it. Let's put on a show.
Can I pause for 1 second, Caroline?
You can. Yes.
Hang on, I just want to show you something. I'm sorry, Aaron. 1 sec. Now, hopefully you can see this. And this is just for you, obviously, not really the podcast, but this is us, me and Jake and Luke at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival doing Jet Set Go.
Oh my gosh.
That's the earliest picture of the 3 of us, me, Jake and Luke.
Oh wow.
I know.
Look at you, you're babies.
I know. This is me and Jake's collaboration, basically. And that's us in Bristol on the suspension bridge, like do it. Hang on. So, and that was Luke kind of making the words "Take Note Theatre" on the.
Oh yeah.
I just thought you'd enjoy seeing that.
I do. I love that. Fabulous. And that's how I remember you guys, because it can't have been that long afterwards that I started singing that song.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the earliest. Yeah, wrote that when we were 21. And to be fair, I really would like to write more standalone comedy songs. There's one in Bake Off that Claire Moore absolutely nails called Bab's Lament, but there are very few kind of standalone, really funny songs that you don't need the context for, I guess.
Yes.
You know, tricky to find those.
Yeah. I mean, is there any song that Claire Moore doesn't nail?
Well, I mean, exactly.
Goddess. An absolute goddess.
She absolutely is.
Okay, so here's like down to the nitty gritty now. Is there a musical experience you have had that has brought you close to going, I give up, I'm not writing again, I hate musicals?
Well, I mean, obviously there's the, oh my God, this was so damn good, you know, I can't possibly compete. Like just envy over other incredible writers, you know, like Sondheim or whatever, you know, and you're going, is there even a point, you know, when there are people out there like this? But in terms of, oh God, this is really not the thing. Didn't love that one, I'm afraid.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I felt like they just decided to try and make some money.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? When you watch a musical that you feel like, whichever musical it is, if it hasn't been conceived out of a love of wanting to tell a great story via music and dance and song and storytelling, then it just grates on you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's meant to come out of passion. And I think when super commercial projects have sort of obviously been put together formulaically or to make money or because, for those reasons, you can sort of see it a bit. And even sometimes in the writing, I think you can go, someone's obviously decided that they needed a good paycheck or something. I don't know what the case it was with. You can feel sometimes when people haven't quite been in love with it all the way through.
Yes, I agree. was the last show I saw before lockdown. And I think we were all in the audience hoping that we weren't catching COVID, and also hoping that there would be another opportunity to see something fabulous without sort of worrying that you're going to catch something that could potentially kill you.
Of course.
It was a very strange atmosphere that night. And I think it was literally maybe 4 or 5 days before theatres shut. It was very odd. Everyone was like talking to each other, but kind of keeping a distance, even though we weren't really being told to socially distance. So I feel like I can't judge because I was in my head watching it, you know?
Yeah, you were in a weird place.
Yeah. I wasn't relaxed to watch it. So is there a musical that you've gone to watch, I guess the opposite of wanting to give up, that has made you fall in love with theatre and change your life choices or change your career choices? Which one did you go in as Pippa and then come out as Pippa !
There isn't like a definitive one show, but there probably is a handful of those ones, which also really speak to me, and Alan Menken will continue to crop up because I feel such an affinity to his music. So when I saw Newsies on Broadway, just the energy of that show, and also I appreciate how hard it is to write a good up-tempo number.
Yeah.
It's so much harder. And actually, you're talking about bugbears. I think sometimes I'm like, too many ballads, guys. You have to earn a ballad. You really have to care. And a really good up-tempo production number that manages to propel the plot, potentially be funny in places, have really shit hot choreography, and be really catchy at the same time is so hard because you've got so many elements to do. And obviously that show just does that so well. And it's just, the energy is just electric the whole time. And I just bopped out of there like, I have to write a song. I have to write a song. I have to write a song that does that makes me want to do a pirouette, even though I cannot dance at all. So that's definitely up there, I think, in terms of making me feel galvanized. But any amazing show, I normally then bop home going, oh, I have to write a song. I have to sit down at the piano and sort of try and play back the things I loved. Again, I'm about to sound sort of all music and geekery with it, but the modulation thing, you know, for a good modulation that makes you lift or makes you cry, or a clever key change or pattern that someone's done musically, I'm like, oh, that's such a good thing that they did there. And that's what it did. And
can you explain for us, Pippa, what a modulation is for those of us who don't know?
Sure, hold on a sec.
Oh, we're going to get music. I'm excited.
Well, Aaron, you can tell me if this isn't going to work. If I'm singing and I'm playing, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
A modulation is just a sequence of chords that takes you from one place to another place.
Okay.
So if we're in a song and we're in C major, this is a song in C major. Here we are in C, having a lovely time in C, but you're sort of like rooted in a place, which is C major.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Seymour, not the moment. Come off. Come off.
The cat's enjoying the lesson.
Cat's enjoying the lesson, yeah. And then if you want to go somewhere else, you need to go there via a modulation. So if I'm now going to go from here to A, for example, I work out a sequence of chords to get me to A. So here would be a version. So I now sing. I sound like I'm doing a music lesson. Da da C da 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 da. And now here we are in A. We're in a different place.
Oh.
Can you hear that we've kind of gone somewhere different in A?
Yes.
And it's literally just a couple of chords. I always joke that with musical directors that we're always trying to find like the standing ovation modulation. You know, say you've got a curtain call and everyone's bowing and then it's time for the leads to bow and you get and you've gone somewhere different and it's like, oh, and it's that sort of lift.
Yeah.
But you can get really sad ones. And I mean, there's the Mary Poppins modulation that is my favourite. I'll play it to you now. It's the end of Feed the Birds. It's also at the end of Where the Lost Things Go in the second movie.
Yeah.
It's so you're finishing a song, da 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 da, and you would expect that. Like that's where you would normally go at the end of a nice song. But they interrupt it basically and go da 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 da. Those chords.
They do give me goosebumps.
Yeah, and even just that one is enough. You go da da da, that's an interrupted cadence. That's nice, but even this da da da, and somewhere else, and now. So look, obviously it's very music geeky, and that's what I was doing when I was 10. I was listening to Disney songs and working out these chord sequences that made me feel. Another one is the Beast transformation at the end of Beauty and the Beast. You know, the...
Yeah.
You know, and I'm going, oh my my gosh, like I'm working it out and going, oh, that, and then you play it in different keys. So anyway.
Oh, Pippa, I am loving
It's
this.
what I respond to. This is what I respond to. But funnily enough, because of my, and I realise I'm going off your topic, because I don't really read and I learned all this by ear, I don't think in chords. I don't think, oh, let's go to D-7, add 13. You know, I'm literate enough that I can tell you where we are. Like we're in here, we're in C, we're in B flat, whatever. But I still do most of these transitions and musical things kind of naturally because I was working them out. And then a decade later when I went to, you know, music school or whatever, I would learn what they were. But other composers would come from let's look at this clever sequence and implement it. Whereas I think I kind of almost reverse engineer that.
Yeah.
And sometimes MDs find me fascinating because they're like, you know, when you went from the flat 9 to the, and I'm like, I don't know, did I do that? I'll play it to you. Yes, I probably did, but that's anyway. So
yeah,
I'm really sorry. I will waffle on forever.
Please do not apologise, because I think I've always thought in my head a modulation is a key change.
Well, it could be,
but it's actually how the key change is implemented and changes of chords. That's what it is.
A modulation is a key change. A simple key change is going. That's just a key change. We've just gone up.
Yeah.
But you could go to that place via a longer route, which would be a more until you get there. So, you know.
Fabulous. That was so much fun. Thank you. Because I thought I knew what it was. And now I'm totally far more informed than I was previously. And having spoken about Newsies and how that made you feel and all those great musicals, what do you think is the secret to a good musical? Heart.
Yeah, heart. As in it has to have heart. What I mean by that is that it's touched you in some way. It's made you feel, it's connected with you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to have been all singing, all bells and whistles, all, you know, amazing costumes. It just in some way it has made you feel something. I guess that's what heart is, I would say. Yeah.
There's also a very good song called You've Gotta Have Heart from...
Oh, yes. What's that from?
I think I want to say Damn Yankees. I might be wrong. You gotta have heart. Miles and miles and miles of heart. Da 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 da.
It's ringing a bell. Oh, and there's also that one, You've Gotta Have Heart and Music. You gotta have heart and music, heart and music. There. I think that song's for New World, is it?
That's A New Brain.
Oh, that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
There we go. That's another banger.
That's a great one to teach in youth theatres. They love singing that song. They love singing that. But yeah, I think it is that feeling you get like when you're watching a show. What I loved what you said earlier about, you know, when you have to write a big up-tempo number that's going to be a set piece with dancing and singing and vibrancy, is that all these boxes that you have to tick to get that right. Whereas when you sit and watch it, you don't see any of that.
No.
You just see heart on stage.
Yeah, 100%. And the craft that goes into it, as you say.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the team that worked on Billy Elliot the musical, and you know, there's a number called Solidarity with all the dancing girls and the minors. Lots of dialogue, lots of incredibly complicated singing and dancing. That I think took a few weeks just to workshop that song because it's so complicated. And then when you see it executed on stage, you're like, oh well, this works so seamlessly. How? It's because it's been finely tuned to within an inch of its life to get those feelings through. But I think it's so much easier in a ballad to do certain things.
Yeah.
It's normally one voice or whatever, and it's about the lyric, and obviously the tune has to really arrest you. But I think for up-tempo production numbers, you've got another 5 things that, as you say, you feel like you have to hit.
Yeah.
And it's really hard.
There's more to the recipe, isn't there, in something like that you have to get right.
Yeah.
Speaking of recipes.
Ooh, good segue there. Love that.
I am nailing these segues today. Thank you.
Really are.
You can absolutely speak of one of your own musicals here, The Bake Off, which was just superb. Is there a musical that feeds your soul? Which musical feeds your soul the most? If you're having a crap day or a good day and you want it to get better or even better, what musical soundtrack would you put on, or what ticket would you go and buy?
I'll answer it twice. I'll do the what would I put on, what would I go see, and then which of my own musicals do I feel feeds my soul? Okay, what would I go and see? Oh, what would I put on? It does depend on the mood, but it's often Disney playlists. But let me try and be a bit more specific. Oftentimes actually the Disney up-tempo playlist, because again, sometimes I always want those kind of boppy bangers, and I do love a bit of Styles and Drew, actually. I often put on a spoonful of Styles and Drew. Goes a long way in my kitchen when I'm doing the washing up or whatever.
That recording has the biggest laugh I've ever got in my life on that recording.
Really? Oh, which bit?
When we're doing the Practically Perfect trio and each of us enters, Lisa O'Hare, Scarlett Strallen and me, and every time we enter we explain who we are, and
Yeah,
the first one and then the second one, and I come on and go, I'm the touring version, and the whole house came down. It was fabulous.
I love that line. It's fantastic.
I loved it. It's a claim to fame.
It's fantastic.
And it's on record, which I think is
I might listen to a bit of Jason Robert Brown, actually. Obviously
stirring stuff, isn't it?
Phenomenal songwriter. I mean, that sometimes has the effect, again, of going, well, what is the point, when there's people like this out there? But no, most of the time I'm like, anything that gets me bopping, I love a good, and he's so good at grooves and beats, and they're not just all but, they're all amazing. In terms of my own stuff, it's going to sound like I'm plugging, but there's this musical that I'm currently working on that is a university production of a fairy tale show I wrote like 8 years ago, and I'm kind of finishing it now so that this university can do it. It's had some productions in Europe in other languages, but it's never actually been on in English yet. And it's basically me in my Disney happy place, like unencumbered Pippa. It's princesses, girls from the real world. There's a gay love story between Rumpelstiltskin and the wolf. It's basically Newsies meets fairy tales meets My Sons Are Queer meets. And we're working on it right now. We're actually going to record an album, and I'm just so in my happy. It's just like
fabulous.
You can hear all of the Alan Menken and all of the Stephen Schwartz and all of the Jason, all of these little influences that I've been talking about. It's Mary Poppins. It's all kind of me on a big old gush. Anyway, so that's feeding my soul at the moment.
I love the sound of that.
It's very epic. We've got a revolution songs, and I've been able to basically go a bit Les Mis with it. And because with Adrian Mole or Bake Off or whatever it is, they're smaller shows. You can't decide to do a flying carpet. Well, we have a flying bed in this, and I'm doing all my version of A Whole New World. So that's basically fun at the moment.
I'm currently revisiting Once Upon a Time on Disney Plus.
Oh, they need to watch that because they do a similar premise, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of fairy tale characters who don't, at the minute in season 1, they don't know they're fairy tale characters. You keep flashing back to the fairy tales, but they're under a curse and they don't know who they are. But it's fabulous. So that sounds right up my street at the minute. It's really good. That sounds fabulous. Well,
as soon as it's done, I will send it to you.
Yes, please.
And then we can put it on this new album, Valley meets Disney meets, I don't know, Over the Valley and Across the Ridge.
Pippa, thank you so much for coming on and talking musicals to me today.
It's been a pleasure.
It's such a joy to speak to a composer and someone who knows so much stuff, and someone who's clearly got their feet firmly in the world of what makes musical theatre so fabulous. What I love about talking to people on this podcast is I'm talking to other people who love it. And aren't we privileged to be able to do what we love for a living, but then also to be able to study what we love and talk about it and compare notes and stuff. I'm having such a ball hosting this podcast. So thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you for doing it. And there aren't enough places for us to do this. So thank you for providing a fantastic platform.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, Pippa. It's been an absolute privilege.
See you soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to episode 10 of Talk Musicals to Me with Pippa Cleary. I can't quite believe we've got 10 episodes of Talk Musicals to Me. It blows my mind slightly. So to celebrate, I'm going to drop a bonus episode, as the kids today say. So listen out on Thursday for a cheeky little bonus episode of Talk Musicals to Me. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. You'll have to listen to find out. Thank you so much for listening today. This has been Talk Musicals to Me for the Bloop Network. My fabulous producer is Aaron Ware, and the music you heard is from the pen of the sublime Tom Self. If you get a moment, please subscribe or follow and rate the podcast by clicking the stars below on the podcast page. It takes about 2 seconds to do, and it will really help the podcast and its future life and would make us massively, eternally, enormously grateful. In the meantime, another huge thanks for tuning in, and please do so again next time to see who will be next up to Talk Musicals to Me.